shining hands in mine. Some things are meant to be. In the end, the call. In the end, the call. In the end, stick with love. Stick with love. Your shining hands in mine. Some things are meant to be. In the end, the call. In the end, the call. In the end, in the stick with love. Stick with love. Stick with love. Stick with love. I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weaver, we would know. I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weaver, we would know. As a sliver of your mind, as a sliver of your mind. Some things are meant to be. In the end, the call. In the end, the call. In the end, in the end, in the I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weaver, we would know. I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weaver, we would know. As a sliver of your mind.
Okay, I think we're both on. Can you hear me okay?
No.
Uh-oh. All right, can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Hang on.
I can hear you, but it's breaking up. I can't understand you. I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. How about now? Is that any better?
A little.
No better? Just a little? Uh-oh. No. Sorry. Okay, guys, cue your questions up. Give me a minute. I got having technical difficulties. All the testing went down the tube.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yes,
okay.
Good.
We'll try this for a little bit. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm Lori Jane from Simply Christian, and with me tonight I have Amanda Zarate. I love saying that last name. So Amanda, I found out about through one of our fellow exjw members. I'm trying to think what his handle is. Grace Maid. And he said, check this girl out. So she had another YouTube video where she was being interviewed about her experience and mentioned she had been a former Jehovah's Witness. And I was very intrigued by her story and reached out to her and asked if she'd be willing to be interviewed. We had a nice little chat, and she has a book, and I read it. It was awesome. I read it in a day and a half, and I normally don't read that fast, but it held my interest that much. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later as well. But Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about really tonight is about two stories, your exit from the Jehovah's Witnesses, because most of our audience are former Jehovah's Witnesses.
Sorry, I can't understand you.
All right. Oh, no. Hold on. Gonna have to pick a different one.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
It's glitching, though. I don't know why. So let me try. How about this one? That's a different one. It's a little further away from me. Can you hear me now?
No. I can hear, but I can't understand you.
How about in the audience? Are you guys hearing me clearly, or am I? All right. I think it might be your headset, hon, because the audience, I think, is hearing me okay. So am I coming out your computer? It might be.
Oh,
why don't you tell us?
Okay.
That's okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your exit from the Jehovah's Witnesses, and tell us your story.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have so many twists and turns, but yes, leaving. It's funny. Over the years, I had these moments where I would have this. I'm sure we all have had these moments of clarity, right? And I would be in the Kingdom Hall and sitting there thinking, do I really believe any of this? Am I really doing this? And so I mean, it took me, I was in that religion for about 27 years. I was born and raised a Jehovah's Witness. I mean, my mom would sit me down and teach me what to say to my teachers every year when I had new teachers, so talking about the holidays and what we do and don't do. And so this wasn't, it was just crazy to have these thoughts that, wow, what if everybody that I know is on the wrong program? Such a lonely and scary place to be. But I did have, 3 or 4 times where in the middle of a meeting at the Kingdom Hall, I would just get up and grab my book bag and leave. And that was
Wow.
kind of like my first little, I don't know, dipping my toe into the unknown. And I would take time off and just say, I'm just going to I'm not going to do any of it. I'm just going to kind of see how I feel or what I think. And I would always find myself going back because it is what I knew. It was familiar. That's where I knew people. And the cost of leaving was so high that for me, it wasn't worth it to take that leap without knowing kind of what I was going to. But I did eventually hit a place where, as you know, Lori, I mean, oh my goodness, I had so many things happen that didn't wake me up. But one night at a meeting, there was this mom and her daughter. Her daughter was 3 years old, and I had a son who was about 1.5 at the time, and he was so wild. Okay, I didn't have one of these like good little kids that could sit in the front of the Kingdom Hall like some people do. Those are not my kids.
I can
My
understand
son was
that.
like tearing up that back. Okay, thank you. I mean, the evil eye I got was like they didn't understand it, but I didn't care. So sitting in that back school was normal for me. And yeah, and so I often was in this back room with this other mom, a cute little girl, and I would share my songbook. I don't know what it was with this woman, but she never remembered her songbook, and so I would share it with her. So I didn't know her name. I didn't get to know her story or anything about her because she was disfellowshipped, and I really wasn't even supposed to be talking to her, right? And honestly, even when sharing my songbook, the people that would get up during the songs to go to the restroom would literally give me this like,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be doing that, or shaking their head at me. And inside, I was just growing more defiant. Like, I really don't care what they think about this. Somebody doesn't have their songbook, and I'm going to share it with her. And so I liked this woman. Her and I were like friends in the weirdest sense that you could be in this, circumstance of this religion. But one night, as I was leaving the Kingdom Hall with my son, I saw her walking. She had crossed the street and she was walking down the sidewalk by herself with her daughter. And her daughter had like those little heels on that little girls
Mm-hmm.
wear, like little jelly heels. And she had her heels on. I mean, I lived in Arizona at the time. I mean, if you've been to Arizona, there are miles between lights. I mean, there's like
Mm-hmm.
nothing around. And I could not figure out why she would be walking. She drove a Lexus SUV. I always saw her burgundy colored car come in. I looked for it. I was excited to see her. And to see her walking at almost 10 o'clock at night with her daughter made absolutely no sense. And I pulled my van up on that sidewalk. I cut her off. She couldn't get around me. I just parked this big old thing right in front of her. And I got out and walked around, and I said, "What are you doing out here? This is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Where could you possibly be walking to?" And she said, "Oh, she actually told me that her daughter had locked her keys in her car, and that's why she had walked to the Kingdom Hall, and she was
Wow.
walking back home. And since she had gone to so many meetings, she was almost reinstated, and she didn't want to have to start all over again by missing that one meeting." Oh, I was
Wow.
mad. Oh, I was mad. And as we're having this conversation, she's freaking out. She's trying to explain quickly to get rid of me because she's afraid for me. And she's saying, "You're going to get in trouble. You can't talk to me. You can't talk to me. I'm disfellowshipped. You're going to get in trouble." And all of these people right across the street from the Kingdom Hall, all these people are pulling out. Elder 1, Elder 2, Mrs. Pioneer 3, regular Pioneer 4. They're all pulling out right in front of us. Not one person stopped to see, do these two ladies need help? Is there something wrong? They just all went right past us. And
Amazing.
I ended up convincing her to get in the car. I took her home. And for me, that was it. I was done.
And how old were
I
you
was
then?
I was 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting near the end of you
Oh,
getting
yeah,
you exiting. So that's
sorry, what was that?
that's a typical story of something that happened. You put up on the shelf, but it didn't quite make you leave yet, but you kind of started to accumulate things you saw were wrong.
Right. Yeah,
But
definitely. And you know that even that night when I drove away, and I was so done with that religion, done. But I even said to myself, God, I know you're not there. I don't know where you are, but I'm going to find you. And I want to know you. I want to know what you think about me. I want to know why you're here. For me, it was never, oh, I just don't want to do that program, or I want to do what I want to do. I did a whole lot of that, but I was on a search to find God. I knew these people don't have what they claim to have. God is not there. And
right.
yeah, that began a whole other journey to find what is truth, who is God, what am I doing here, what am I supposed to be doing?
So
Yeah.
going back a little bit further in your history, you shared with me, and it's in your book, so I think it's safe to share that you had abuse in your young life and even later on. And what really got me was that the perpetrator tried to get help. He was a Jehovah's Witness, went to the elders. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I'm sorry, my camera must be messing up, but I think you're asking me to talk to you about talking to the elders about what my dad was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, my parents got divorced at 9, and we lived in a huge house in Bellevue. My parents and my grandparents I have to kind of back up a little bit. We had all moved into this big home together. And when my parents were having a lot of marriage problems, my mom moved downstairs. And there was a sliding door that went out to the cars. So my mom would leave and she wouldn't even be home, and we wouldn't even know it. I mean, it was almost worse that we had the means to even live that way, because we all lost touch with each other. And so my parents, when they got divorced, my dad basically just replaced my mom with me. He would bring me into his bedroom and he molested me. Years later, it just got worse, a lot worse. So that started when I was in 4th grade, when I was 9. And when I was 11, he said to me, Amanda, I'm going to talk to the elders, and I'm going to tell them what I've been doing to you, but don't tell your grandma yet. And so for me, this sounded like all the hope that I had been waiting for. Like, thank goodness he's going to tell. That means he's going to stop, or at least they're going to probably have him arrested. I didn't really love the idea of that, but I did like the idea of being rescued from this horrible situation. And so we go to the meeting. I'm so nervous because I know that after the meeting gets over, we're not going to be like all the other families, bebopping out the door to go get ice cream or, French fries. I needed to stay in that Kingdom Hall and wait for everybody to leave. And hopefully they don't notice that we're hanging around to talk about some serious sin. You know what I mean? How nosy people are.
Yes.
And, yeah, you know how it is. So they all finally left and filtered out, and there's that boardroom in the back with that long table. And there are 3 elders, grown, older men who I know. They're all I've known my whole life. I've been seeing them, 5 times a week. And some of them had, well, we talked to a lot of them, but these 3, at least 2 of the 3 had kids that I would play with, that I would, have play dates with, you know what I mean? It was the whole thing was so embarrassing because I knew that I wasn't telling strangers. And as we sat, my dad promised me that I wasn't going to have to talk to them, that he was going to go in there and he was going to talk to them. So
he was going to confess.
Went in there with them. Yeah, he was going to go confess. And so he went in there, he talked to them. I waited out in the hallway. And when he came out, I thought, phew, thank goodness it's over. And then they said, okay, can we talk to you for a second? And even that was such a violation. You know what I mean? He told me I wasn't going to have to talk to them. And now he's handing me to 3 men in a room where they closed the door. My dad's not in there with me. It's just me and them. And, them on one side of the table and little old 11-year-old me on the other side. Horrifying. And I was so embarrassed. I mean, I couldn't say the things that he was doing. Honestly, I didn't even know what you called it.
Right. You didn't know how to describe it.
Terminology. It was just horrible. And yeah, so they asked me these questions, does he touch you? Does he do this and that? And I'm like shaking, trying to get out of it. And that was it. I walked out of there, and I know I write in my book, I really thought like a scene on the movie was about to play out. I thought the SWAT was going to pull up, police cars. And honestly, for months after this, every time I heard a siren, I would think they're coming for me. They're coming to get me. They're coming, to help me. And
Yeah.
nobody was coming for me because they never had any intention of telling anybody that I needed help. That wasn't going to happen. Crazy.
So your father was willing to go to the elders, but not to the authorities to turn himself in. So he kind of knew, it sounds like, that they wouldn't do that either.
Oh, of course. I think everybody kind of, it was, well, I don't know that they actually explicitly say, right, don't go to the authorities, but they do say, I do remember even as a child knowing that if you bring reproach on Jehovah's name, God will kill you at Armageddon. And I think that they need to say to keep people complicit, to keep them quiet,
I'm so sorry that
it worked.
Happened to you. And did they try and help you? Did they try and talk with you, or did they have their wives try and give you comfort, or, because your mom wasn't in the picture then, right?
No, well, my mom had been disfellowshipped, so she was the devil in their eyes. She was the bad one. My dad got a lot of sympathy for being the good one that stayed a Jehovah Witness, that stayed going to the meetings, that kept the routine, kept bringing my brother and I to the meetings. And so that was confusing also. It was like, well, she's the bad one, but he's worse, and these people don't even know it. But
yeah,
it wasn't until I was 15, and I think the elders understood that at 15, there were some real serious complications that could come from his behavior, his abuse of me. And so they started to try to intervene a little bit more in their own power. A couple of the elders offered their couches on the weekends. So I would go to my dad's on the weekends, and they would say, well, when at nighttime, drop her off, and we'll have a bed made on the couch, and she can sleep there. And then you come get her in the morning. Oh my gosh. And it's like, a part of it is just so infuriating, because I don't know why any of them would think that abuse happens only at nighttime. It happened all the time. Any chance he could, you know what I mean? Like, nighttime? Really? At least the man has to sleep. That might have been one of the safer times of the day,
right.
And then this whole like, oh, well, we keep it confidential. I was getting to see the other side of things. I'll just say that. So a lot of things that I really held these elders in this position in such high esteem. And I was starting to see the breakdown, the reality of it, because their wives knew, their kids knew. I didn't tell them, but I knew their husbands had to explain, why is this teenager coming to sleep on our couch Fridays and Saturday nights? You know what I mean? And then if I didn't go to one of their houses, and maybe I went to a different one's house, the wife would ask me at the Kingdom Hall, how come you didn't come sleep here last night? Where were you? Oh, it was so.
Because everyone's thinking, well, wouldn't she be at her father's? Yeah. Now, where were you during the week? Were you with your mother or with your grandmother?
Right.
Your grandmother?
I lived during any given week, I lived with my grandparents, my mom, and my dad. So I was either at my grandmother's or my mom's house. Yeah.
And now, did they know at that time what was going on?
My mom did not know until I told her. I was 16 when I finally let her know.
Wow. And so no other type of help did they give you other than a couch to sleep on the weekend? That's astounding to me.
They did write a letter. I was 15, and it was starting to get more serious. It was just, there was like a lot more eyes, a lot more attention on it, a lot more meetings, a lot more elders. And, they said, we're going to write the society. And back then there was no like email, it was literally, they were typing out a letter and they were mailing it to New York. And we had to wait for them to get it, open it, read it, and send something back. And I remember being so hopeful that finally for sure the headquarters in New York, they're going to know the right thing to do. These people hear directly from God and they're going to know. And that letter came back. They said that we got the letter, come in the back room. Again, we're having to wait for everybody to filter out so we can go to the back room. And when they read it, it was just, then my spirit died inside of me, because basically they just said, you know what's happening in your congregation and you handle it the way you see fit. They just washed their hands of it.
Wow.
And I just knew, like, that is the end of me. I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't have anybody that I'm telling that is going to help me,
I can imagine, especially since they're supposed to be God's representatives.
Right.
B is asking a question. Did the elders make you feel responsible for what happened to you? Did they validate your suffering at all?
Well, so I was very fortunate in that my dad always said, this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm sorry. And so I always knew it was not my fault. And he would tell me, this is not your fault. This is me. But then he would never stop. And I would say that the elders, although they did not do anything to help me, which I think it's a normal human being would do something to help a child.
They'd get you removed.
They never
yes.
made me, right. They never told me it was my fault. They never said it was my responsibility to get out of that situation. And they didn't. They did, I would say, validate my suffering. They knew this was very difficult for me. And in the confines of their religion, because I was lost. They were too. And, they had a greater responsibility in it, but honestly, we were all the blind leading the blind,
Right.
So they did.
And did they ever say it'd be safer for you to live with your disfellowship mother? That's what Berean Observer's asking.
Oh, that's a good one. Actually, no. Instead of disfellowshipping my father for what he was doing, they publicly reproved him so that I wouldn't go live with my disfellowship mother, because in their mind, she was more dangerous than him. Oh, right?
Wow.
The insanity. Yeah, they wanted to make sure that my brother and I could still go to the congregation picnics and the weddings and things. So if they disfellowshipped my dad, we would for sure be more cut off. And they weren't going to do that to our family.
That's just beyond my comprehension. When I first woke up and found out about how they handled child sexual abuse, it was hard for me to get my head around. And so when I met you, and I have spoken to other people who have had issues like that, but nothing like yours. Yours is just, off the charts in how poorly handled. And I apologize for all the adults that really let you down in your life, but, and so now we're going to fast forward to the positive of all this. What did you,
Yes.
So what did you do to turn it around? I know you just to kind of fast forward, you kind of, because of your abuse, you unfortunately married abusers and got out of those relationships. And then you started to realize you had to fight for yourself. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Oh, wow. I don't even know where to start on that one. I'm going to fast way forward. So I moved to California. I had tried all sorts of things that were not working for me. It was kind of like one of those everything that I probably should have never tried. I tried and I did. And I just kind of went wild after I left the organization. And a lot of bad relationships, a lot of bad decisions, just a lot of mess that I created. And I kind of just hit the end of me, where I just knew there's got to be more. There's got to be more to this life than what I'm seeing here. There has to be a bigger purpose and reason. It's funny, over the years, people would say things to me that were like, it's amazing. I wonder why you were allowed to go through all of these things. I wonder what it is that you're supposed to do with all of this. And it would get me thinking, I don't even know how to think like that. Really? Is there more to this? Because how I was feeling at the moment before everything turned around was, I'm so tired of dragging around my story and this mess that I have to hand to people so that they can kind of understand where I'm coming from. Like, if you marry me, why is there no family coming? You know what I mean? It's like hard to get into a relationship or to have any kind of normal life without having to explain something. And it just felt so heavy. And I don't even think I realized that I was praying, but I literally just said out loud, what is the point of all of this? And I knew God knew what I meant when I say all of this, like all of this mess. What is this for? And the very next day, oh my goodness, it was this booming, more than a thought, like an audible voice that said, start a nonprofit. And I knew that, okay, I'm going to start a nonprofit. It's called Fighting for Me. And I'm going to help other sexual abuse survivors. I'm going to give people everything that I didn't have when I needed it. And so that's what I do. I get to go to bat for people, men, women, and children. And when they send a request to the website that you see right there, fightingforme.org, there's not a bunch of embarrassing questions. Basically all of the things that were so painful for me to go through that I could not stand, I just eliminate. I got to start my own nonprofit, so I do it the way I want to do it, the way I want to take care of people. And yeah, there's grant money out there and there's ways that I could get more funding. But you know what? To get those things, you need to ask people questions so that you give other people that don't even care about people information so they can gather statistics. And I'm not willing to do it. I will do it the way I want to do it and the way it should be done. And so it's basically a little bit of contact information so I can get a hold of the person. And really the main thing is the zip code. I need to know where you're at. And I have universities, therapists in private practice, other nonprofit organizations, and we've helped people all over the United States, even South Africa, India. And as long as I can communicate with you and communicate with the people, I get to go and advocate for those that reach out to Fighting for Me. And it has been my greatest pain, really has been the greatest source of joy. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think the audience would agree with me.
I get it.
You're awesome. I want to say, you go, girl. And the fact that you have this counseling to help people that can't afford it, because I know in the book you talk about how you had to like forego some necessities just to get therapy for yourself. So that's why you have it doesn't cost anything.
Abusive man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Exactly.
He had an allowance.
Exactly. And again, that painful situation. Yeah, exactly. And I knew. I don't even want, like, don't send me your financials. I'm not asking questions. And honestly, do you know what, Lori? A lot of people contact me and say, I don't need it free. I want the best. You know who to go to. And that happens all the time. I feel like if people, it is free. I'm not going to ask you, but the people that don't need it free, they tell me. I don't need to babysit the process. I just am supposed to I'm supposed to offer it for free.
That's great.
It has worked.
So B is asking, a child who suffered from sexual abuse usually develops post-traumatic stress disorder and many personality disorders. In your own experience and those who you help, what can you do to deal with this?
Oh, definitely. Great question. Well, I'm no exception. People think, oh, you're so strong. I am. I'm tough. I was not tough enough to figure this on my own. And I had PTSD and I had a lot of problems. So I needed counseling. I didn't even know that talking about it could help me. I actually went to a medical doctor to deal with the issues that I was experiencing physically. A lot of pain in my body, a lot of lack of intimacy, just not wanting really to live, and just a lot of different physical things. And this doctor had the intuition to ask me a few questions about my family, and she told me, you need to go talk about it. You need a therapist. And so that's why I offer the free counseling, because it was essential in helping me overcome the PTSD and all the mess that I went through. And specifically, I needed a type of counseling called EMDR. It's an eye movement desensitization something rhythm. It mimics your REM sleep. You're not hypnotized. You're not under the influence of anything. You're completely aware and awake. And it's so silly. It almost seems like it would not work. And I remember telling my therapist, I said, this is for your crazy patients. Okay, I'm way too normal for this. I am with it in my head. This is not going to work for me, because I am strong in my mind, and I'm not going to fall into this whole thing that's going to do this, get something out of me. And it worked. And for me, I only needed 2 or 3 sessions. I did not have to do it for real. I know some of our Fighting for Me clients are in it for a lot longer, depending on how young and how much they went through. But she called it taking out the trash. And man, it was just in a few seconds. I only needed to remember a couple of things that I had blocked out that would unlock the rest of everything for me. And that helped me really look at things that were messing with me and deal with them. So then I could finally move past it instead of always being afraid of it. And not even wanting to be afraid, but just my subconscious always reacting to that thing I hadn't dealt with, right? So counseling for sure. And then, of course, I love Jesus. I did find God, and I tell you, and through Fighting for Me, every person I share the gospel with. I have led so many Fighting for Me clients, it's not even funny. And it goes together. I mean, I can help somebody in this lifetime, and that's fabulous, but I'm really interested in eternity. I want them to get the bigger picture. It does help keep this lifetime and this stuff in perspective when we understand that God doesn't he didn't make this happen to me, but he allowed it. It happened. And even in this horrible circumstance, he has made something so incredibly beautiful out of it. And yeah, so
amen.
I find that encourages people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because we're trying to pack everything into an hour, and you said even in your book you left out a lot, right? So but it was so interesting. I'm trying to think some of the things that the audience might enjoy hearing.
Yeah.
So at 28, you were telling the story about the disfellowshipped sister that you gave a ride to. How soon after that did you leave, and what did that look like? Did they come after you? Were you able to exit gracefully?
Okay, so and I did not write about this in the book. That night I was done. I never went back into a Kingdom Hall. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, but I did have a huge party for myself. There were 100 people that I had. I mean, there were sleeping bags and mats everywhere. My garage, it was a weekend event where a disco ball. I mean, I had a DJ and my brother flew in and his wife and a whole bunch of my friends from my hometown. And I was saying goodbye to them.
What did you tell them the party was for?
I know the rules. There were people that I wasn't supposed to talk to because I was in that religion. And so I didn't think that because now I woke up, all of a sudden everybody was coming with me. I knew what the deal was going to be. And so I just did a way that worked for me. And I had a huge goodbye party. I got to hug and kiss and love on everybody. And so when I was done, I was good. I was okay with leaving. And, and for me, I didn't go hang out with exjws. For me, it was kind of like, felons hang out with other felons that you're going to kind of think and do the same things. I needed somebody to kind of catch me when I was being Jehovah Witnessy. You know what I mean? And people that didn't understand me and didn't speak the way I spoke and didn't live the way I lived were easiest for them to be like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? So that for me was very helpful to just kind of go see what do other people do? How do you celebrate these holidays? And so leaving, there were multiple steps. It took I would say, I don't remember perfectly, but it took a while before somebody finally reported me. I got baptized into another religion. I didn't believe fully in this religion, but I thought, closer to God, how about I try it? And and so somebody found out about that, and they called the elder, said, hey, you know what? She got baptized in another religion. You better go get her. I never forget the phone call. I was in sales, so I got phone calls all day long from numbers I didn't recognize.
Oh no. We lost her. I hope she comes back. Here she comes.
To convince me. I give him credit. He wasn't really calling to try and get me in trouble. He seemed desperate to not get in trouble. Like, are you sure you want to? You can come back. You don't have to go this way. And I just said, you know what? You go ahead and make whatever announcement you feel you need to You do whatever you need to do. I'm not coming. I won't be there. And it really has nothing to do with me. have fun
Wow.
with that, And that was it. So I don't know if it's graceful or not, but for those that don't know me, I really didn't care.
And then, so what happened with your dad? Can you hear me? What happened to your dad?
Question.
Okay.
After I told my mom at 16 that after he went to, or after I told my mom, she reported he did go to jail, and I court ordered him to counseling when I was 19. And I found out that he had given me the date rape drug. He had stalked me. He was I don't know. He would watch me and follow me. He was so dangerous.
He was obsessed.
So I figured I could forgive and get past all. Exactly. And I had forgiveness for him. I told him, I forgive you, but with the new information, I just can't have you in my life. I don't want to have to always be looking around to see if, you're there. I can't live like that. So I said, I forgive you. I love you. I hope the best for you. I really want you to be happy, but we got to go our separate ways. And so I don't know what happened. He did eventually get fellowshipped. I've heard some things, but none of those things I know about, so I won't say. But he's now reinstated. He's married to a regular pioneer. He is practicing Jehovah's Witness. And it's crazy. 19 years after that time I had talked to him, God put it on my heart to go and find him and to go share the gospel of Jesus Christ with him. And I found his wife on Facebook. I reached out, and my dad texted me the next night. And I was like the little 8-year-old girl that remembered my dad. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. And so we talked, about 4 or 5 conversations we talked, and we would talk for a couple hours each time. And the last time I just told him, Dad, you know what? You didn't commit the unforgivable sin. Like, God loves you so much. He already knew what you were going to do to me, and he still sent Jesus to die for you. You don't have to live under that weight and that condemnation. And he just cried and cried. Oh my gosh,
Wow.
He just cried and cried. Like, he always cried. My dad's such a crybaby. I'm not a crybaby that much, but he is. And he just cried. He said, I just don't know how you can be so loving to me after everything I've done to you. And I just said, you know what? I've been forgiven for all the horrible things I've done. How could I not forgive you? Our sin may be different, but in God's eyes, it's all the same. And, he has rejected that.
Amazing.
But I really believe that I pray for my dad. And I've seen so many people in my family that I think will never come out of that religion and certainly never, ever give their life to Jesus. And they have done it. And God has even been merciful enough and kind to me where they call me and say, I want your Jesus. And I get to lead them in the prayer. So I know I get to watch like the transformation that happens when they accept God into their hearts. It's incredible. And I'm waiting. I am actively, expectantly waiting for that call.
That's amazing. You are truly an inspiration.
Forgiveness is the key.
Yeah. And you had mentioned in the book too that you really, besides the bad that your father's doing, you actually enjoyed him. You had fun with him, and so it had to be so incredibly confusing. And to be able to remember those good parts of him too, but standing up for yourself, and he did his time, and hopefully he got help. And now you're helping others. What does he think about your activism with helping people who are victims of sexual abuse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is the greatest joy to help other people. And the coolest thing is then being able to give people a platform where they can then share their story. It's not about me. Like, I can go away and I want fighting to keep going. It's really about, we're only as good as the last person that we helped. You know what I mean? And so the thing I love the most about Fighting for You, like we are tiny but mighty. We are such I'm so proud of my team. But the thing is, we run off of people that come back and help make sure that somebody else gets the help that they got. And we don't say that. I don't tell anybody that's what we would like to have happen. It just happens. It is literally, it's on their hearts. They're like, man, you know, it was so easy. I didn't have to ask any questions, answer any weird questions. Nobody asked me for money. Nothing was expected other than you go to the therapist, go, don't miss your appointments. That's the only thing that's expected. We're going to fight for you, and you got to make sure you also fight for yourself. We're here to help you, but you got to do your work. And then, yeah, people come back, and we have an ambassador in Kentucky. We have a guy in Maine that, oh my goodness, we have such an incredible team all around United States. And of course, my board members are the most, I tell them all the time, they're my favorite part of the foundation. Because without these women that I work with, I could not do the things that I do. The people is the best part. And, you know, and the work comes. It's hard. It's not all fun. It's not all glamorous. It's spreadsheets and numbers.
Right.
And hard and stuff that I'm not always good at. And sometimes I'm asking God, are you sure I don't know any of this? You know, I feel like it's my first day on the job every day at the thing that I created. But here we are making it happen. It's definitely not because I, you know, went to Harvard, right? We know that as Jehovah's Witnesses are, for the most part, pretty uneducated. I would consider myself.
Don't get too educated. Don't love Jesus too much. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
So Watchtower History is asking, did you have any hatred for the organization, and how did you get past that? There's a delay, I think.
That's a good question. I'm very angry for a long time. And
You're good. You're good.
How about now? Are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was very angry for a long time. And for me, that anger played out in some pretty ugly ways. And probably because of my abuse, it played out more specifically in promiscuity, drinking too much, partying, just an absolute reckless, worthless kind of a way that I worked some things out. So what I'm trying to tell you is that anger and that bitterness really just hurt me. It hurt me. And it was through counseling, and then also really just reading my Bible. People, it's not like they got up out of bed and I'm going to hurt Amanda. They are in the dark even to this day. They don't see it. They don't get it. They're puppets of evil. And that's why that forgiveness for me has been key. It wasn't just forgiveness of my dad. It was forgiveness for all the elders that were involved, all the people that helped cover it up. Because, I mean, what else are they going to do? It says in the Bible that, you know, good fruit doesn't come from bad trees. Like all they're going to do is more bad stuff. So now it's not that I place names or blame on them, right? I can look at it from a different perspective and say, you know, of course that's what they would do. And I still forgive them. I forgive them, and I really hope they come and they find Jesus also. And if I ever have the chance to be the one to share the love of Jesus with them, I will do that. That's the only thing that conquers all of this mess.
So what was your faith journey? You had mentioned joining another religion. I think, was it the Mormons you put in your book? Uh-oh.
Right.
Freezing.
Yep. Tried that.
And then you realized that didn't have a lot of accuracy. And then, so how did you get to where you are today in your beliefs?
Okay, so I'll fast forward some stuff. I ended up meeting my husband. He took me to my very first Christian church, like real Christian church. They taught from the Bible, broke down the Word of God. There was no hidden agenda. And every weekend I was hearing, you know, come to Jesus, forgive you of your sins. I was hearing this gospel message over and over again. And then one day I literally, when I pray for people to have their spiritual eyes and ears opened, is because I know what that is like. I literally had a morning where I heard something I had never heard before, even though I had heard it 100 times before. And I knew, it was just, God touched my heart immediately in that moment. I knew the Holy Spirit had just touched me, was pulling, was calling me. And really for me, it was stop being afraid. That fear, you know, what's the worst that can happen if you give your life to Jesus and he forgives you of your sins and give you the best life now, you know, with purpose and understanding and then a sure future of heaven. You don't have to for all those things you did. And I knew, I said, oh, that's it. I'm done with this whole other mess that I've been living in. And I went to the front of that church and I had this, you know, I said the prayer to receive Christ into my heart. And I remember he said to me, he said, don't let anybody ever tell you that this doesn't mean anything. And I knew God was using him to speak to me because I had tried so many things. I mean, so things to try to God. And it was like God himself just came right down and just, he just hugged me in that moment and let me know this was it. All those like yoga, meditation, drinking, partying, men, whatever else it was, you know, Mormon, Catholic, I don't know, Book of Mormon, anything that I tried to do. Yes, I know you tried those, Amanda, but this right here, you put your faith in my son, Jesus Christ, and it is finished. He did the work and you're saved. You're good. Felt amazing. And my husband, little side note, he was our son. He knew all about, he had Jesus, but he wasn't walking with him. He wasn't living for him. And so when I was looking for God, he was convicted of the fact that he had not been doing anything with God. And so really God brought us both back to him at the same moment. And the day I gave my life to Jesus, my husband rededicated his life to Jesus. And so we prayed for me and then we prayed for him. And it was just such an incredible moment. What I will never forget and never take for granted. It just was powerful.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your family? You have kids? How many kids do you have? And how old are they?
I have 4 boys. Yes, I have 4 boys. My oldest is 13, 11. And I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Wow.
All boys. Oh my goodness.
And you're running a foundation.
And
that's
you know what's
amazing.
funny, Lori, is I have 4 brothers and mostly boy cousins. So I don't know what it is, but God knew, like, this is a boy mom.
Very good. So a lot of people are sharing in the chat how amazing you are. David and Vivian Aspinall said, so glad to hear your joy. We agree. Forgiveness is key. Until you forgive, you are not free from bitterness. So that's a good reminder.
Yes. Oh, there is one thing I know it's hard and I know it's painful growing up the way we did because you lose so much when you walk away. But honestly, the things that God can give you, he can give you family, he can give you peace. All things that you think you're never going to have again, he already has it waiting. We just have to take a leap of faith and step out into the unknown. And God is good. He's there waiting. He's calling us out of there. The hiding and the living a double life is no way to live. And you don't have to live it. You just don't, we don't have to live there in secrecy. And the cool thing to me that I really want is my family are watching me and they're coming out and they've come to faith in Jesus Christ. So I want to really put that out there, that have the faith.
Yes. Yeah. Most in our audience are, are people searching. So, what advice would you give people as, we tend to come together having Bible studies in the XJW community, and we have a support group or new ones come. And if they express that they've suffered some sort of sexual abuse, what would be your recommendation for how to help them?
I didn't hear some kind of sexual abuse. What would I tell them?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is that what you're asking me? What would I tell them if they've been sexually abused? Well, all day long, you can tell them about fighting for me. I'm not, as much as I can understand my experience and how I got here, I'm not a therapist, and I tell people that. Like I don't know the journey for you. Everybody is different. But I think counseling for everybody is a really, really great place to start when you've gone through something as serious as a trauma like sexual abuse. And Fighting for Me is available. It is free, and I personally add for each person. So always fightingforme.org. You can hand that to anybody. And in places that are more populated, it usually doesn't take me more than a couple days to find somebody help. And if they're in like the middle of Iowa and there's more cows than people, it takes me a little bit longer, but I don't give up. I will search. We work it out somehow.
Tell us a little bit about this website and your ability to speak for others.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, oh my goodness. I do quite a bit of speaking, and it usually is word of mouth and random things. But one of my board members, Christain, she said, you really need a public speaking website so people can find you. So that's really this was kind of a website she put together for me. So people, if they do want me to do an interview or come speak at the schools or whatever it is, it's a nice, easy way to kind of get an idea of where I've come from, some of the things that I could speak about, and to be able to contact me. So if people have questions they want to connect, or if they want me to come speak, then there's AmandaZarate.com. They can find me. And then, of course, my book. The book you can find on Amazon, or if you go to the website, AmandaZarate.com, it will link you up to Amazon.
Very good.
Probably one of the coolest things that has happened with that book, Lori, is somebody randomly messaged me on Facebook and let me know that after reading my book, they left the Jehovah's Witness religion. I never imagined that would happen. Never.
Yeah, we had talked about how I kind of was on a private journey for my first 6 months of waking up. And then I found the exjw community where we were having Zoom meetings, and your path was a little different. You kind of put it in the rear view mirror and just kept going. But it's funny how we're coming together now. And I think this will help a lot of exjws, those who've been awoke for a long time and didn't know how to get help for past abuse. And for those newly coming out that have fresh wounds and did not get the help from the Watchtower organization that they should have. So I'm so happy to have found you to be able to plug people into your network and get help. And who knows, maybe there's some more volunteers that can join your team and help as well. So a couple questions, our
awesome.
People are very interested in exjw stuff. Were you around in 1975? Were you a witness then?
No, born in 1981. So that all happened before me.
Yeah, I didn't think you're that old. Yeah. Okay. So TW is saying, if there's a child molested,
some days with all these kids.
Yeah, I hear that. If there's a child molester in the congregation, the elder should identify the individual to the congregation. How is keeping this information confidential protecting the flock? Pure evil. We agree.
Well, again, it's kind of, it's the blind leading the blind, right? I mean,
they're not trained.
I don't even know if I have an explanation. That's just, there's something that can't be explained. No.
They're not trained.
It doesn't make any sense. But the thing is if I spend my entire life trying to figure out all the things that don't make sense, I'll go crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I don't pay attention to what they're doing or what they don't do. I just don't subscribe to what they're doing.
Well, we agree.
And pray that people will come find the way, a different way. Because I can't, we can't explain evil. Evil is evil. It is evil. Yeah.
So B is asking, it's one thing to forgive your perpetrator, another thing is to fight for justice. What do you think about those of us trying to get justice, especially from the Watchtower organization and the two witness rule?
That's a good one. Ooh, I have a video on this one. So
Do
again,
you?
we're all in our different journeys. So I'm gonna tell you what, for me, how I take this. And so you have to decide what you want to do. But I'm just gonna bring it down to what I've got. You know, going after the Watchtower Society, I didn't do any of that. But in regards to my father and him, you know, I got justice in a lot of people's lives. You know, I had a judge that convicted him. It is, you can go find it. It's on public record. You know, King County versus my father. But I'll say this. I think this is the most important thing. Getting justice, even if you get the justice that you are looking for. Maybe you topple the entire Watchtower organization. It no longer exists. It's obliterated. It's gone. It's done. None of that can do the work that you're going to need to do to heal from what you've gone through. It doesn't fill the hole that's there. I think a lot of people think that once they get that conviction or they get this, they're going to feel better. They're going to feel validated. It's very empty. So, you know, by all means, do the things that you feel you need to, especially to protect other people. But, you know, I don't know what people believe on here, but as a believer in Jesus, and I read my Bible, I know that this world is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. It is actually going to go away completely. And so, just like fighting for me, yes, I help people and I give them the gospel, because escaping is what I believe God is telling us we need to, he's going to do. He's going to come for Jesus is coming back for us. And so I'm not going to spend my time fighting for justice for every little wrong or even big wrongs, because even if I get what I want, it's going to be something else that's worse. I mean, if Jehovah's Witness organization goes away, evil is still running this world. It's going to be something else that people are going to fall into, and they're going to follow. As I'm sure that may or not make a lot of sense, but if we can scroll out and get the bigger picture, we don't need to go fight in courts, because that's actually not where our healing comes from. We could fight on our knees and pray like crazy that everybody comes out of there and finds Jesus. And I think we would probably get a lot further if we went that route, rather than opening up another lawsuit. Because laws don't change the heart. The law of Moses didn't change people's hearts. They're still wicked. Even if they weren't allowed to do something, maybe they didn't do it because they were afraid of the consequence. But it didn't change them. They're just going to go to another version of evil. And so that's just my perspective. I have a biblical worldview. I'm not going to go after the organization, because that organization is run by Satan, the devil, and everybody that's in it is subject to the enemy. I want to help get people the light, the love of Jesus, and help them come out of there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But, you know, if people are going to go and do lawsuits, it's not for me to judge, right? That's not for me to say.
Very good. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. That hour went by so fast. And I know in our support group, we've already had some that have many actually that have suffered from sexual abuse. And now we have a place to send them from someone who also can identify with coming out of a high control religious group. So thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. And now everyone knows how they can reach out to you. We shared your websites, we shared your book link, we shared your YouTube channel. So I'm sure you'll be hearing from many more of us. Thank you so much. Are there any parting words that you'd like to share with us?
Thank you. No, I thank you so much for having me on here. This has been a pleasure, and I really hope that it helps a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, everyone, thank you for your wonderful comments and questions, and thanks for spending time with us, and we'll see you again next time.